All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. We are coming to you live with another edition of the Weekly Member Spotlight. I am so excited, and I can already tell you this interview is probably going to get a little bit out of hand, so you're going to want to watch this one. Sitting down this morning with two friends of mine from CoStar, Miss Marcia Bollinger and Jill Theis. Before we get into our interview, though, I am ecstatic to let everyone know bidding is live for our Holiday Cheers event for the Apartment Association outreach. I know y'all have been getting emails and you've seen all of our great videos and promotions on social media this week, but bidding started yesterday. It's going December 3rd through December 10th, so there is still plenty of time, but you don't want to wait. Get onto the website, check out the items that we have up for auction. There are some really incredible things, some fabulous baskets, some really cool experiences, dinner with some really cool people, Mark and Janet. I saw Town Properties had a dinner. I couldn't even begin to name them all, but you definitely want to go check out the GCNKA website and take a look at the Holiday Cheers auction. This is to benefit our apartment association outreach. It's a great cause, and what a better way to end this insane year that we've all had by giving back to our community and supporting our organization. So please check that out. All right, without further ado, again, I am really excited to sit down this morning with these two women who I've got to know a little bit this year. I met Marcia on a Women of the Industry Zoom meeting that started taking place during this pandemic. And then I've known Jill for a while, being involved in the apartment association, both locally and at the national level, but I know very little about them personally. So this is going to be a great interview. We're going to do it a little bit differently. I wanted to start off by saying that CoStar is one of the GCNKAA Diamond sponsors, and I want to personally and on behalf of our association, thank you so much for your support. What you do for our organization is truly just incredible, and what you do for those of us who operate properties and rely on all of the leads that you bring us and all of the services and the products that you have to make our lives and our jobs even possible. For that, we are just so grateful. I'd like to start off, stop talking and ask you to start talking. Introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do with CoStar.
Oh, thank you so much. You are such a joy to be around. Hey. I love her last name. Joy is so cool. I'm Marcia Bollinger, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here today. I'm a senior vice president with apartments.com and have literally been in this multifamily amazing business for almost 40 years and worked my entire career on what I'll call lead generation, or connecting consumers with their next apartment home. That's been my focus. My forward focus, my past focus, it's just what I dedicated my life to. Was on the original team that started the very first internet listing service site out there.
Wow.
Back in the day when we called it the World Wide Web, and how do we get all this apartment content onto this big thing called the World Wide Web? And it was quite fun and quite crazy back in the day, and have continued to work to build that lead generation component to make sure that apartment communities have residents, or what we call heads on the bed, and keep everybody's property full and with amazing residents that enjoy the pleasures and the wonderment, I will say, with living on an apartment community. So I've been with CoStar. Well, we were actually with Apartment Finder, and CoStar acquired Apartment Finder. So we are now part of the whole umbrella of 12 websites that fall under the apartments.com group of sites that we work for, which helps a lot keeping all the components together of what it really takes to make sure that your property, whether it's an A, B, C, D, affordable, AA, new construction, whatever, that we connect with that consumer for you on your behalf. So it's fun, it's exciting, it's ever changing. We have come through this last year, and I'm so proud of our industry. If you don't mind, I'd like to mention that I was on the original task force team that helped put Apartment Teams Day together for our industry.
Wow.
And it was kind of my idea or my concept, because my heart has always been with on-site teams, because they drive the health and the wealth of our industry and our business. So we said we need a day of our own. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but today is National Cookie Day. So another one of my favorite things are cookies. But I said, we need an apartment teams day because our on-site teams drive our business and they're essential right now. And they're doing so many things to help our industry by being our front lines, and NAA endorsed it. And of course, you know, it went across the country like wildfire because our teams are so passionate and energetic. But that's just a little bit about me. I have known Jill for, oh my goodness, 20, 25 years. She's a rock star. I love it. She's feet on the street. She's a field warrior. She makes sure everything happens. But Jill, let me hand it off to you for a minute.
Thanks, Marcia. Yeah, I've been working with Marcia for years and years. Seems like, don't let that age me. And we've been together for many years. We were acquired by CoStar through the Finder acquisition. And thankfully, couldn't be happier to be with the CoStar group in the apartments.com vertical, and are just so pleased that we are blessed to work with a company that is always innovating, always moving forward, and finding new ways to bring leads and innovation into the industry, and giving back to the multifamily space, both on the consumer side, making sure that we are building sites that people want to stay on in order to bring leads to the multifamily industry, and constantly making sure that we are being a lead generator of qualified, good leads to the industry. So we're fortunate to be with this company. We love it. It's been a crazy year, but we have come through it with finding the bright side of things. It is actually been the hottest winter ever. Marcia, a little bit about that. We've found some pent up demand in the industry, and we've been able to use not only the apartments.com side of the business, but our CoStar side of the business, which is a data driven side of the business. It is we are an analytics company that tracks analytics for commercial real estate. We've been able to use that side of our industry and some of our analytics, market analytics team to really provide data for the apartments and multifamily industry to kind of track trends and let people know and forecast for how we see things coming out this year. And that's been very helpful, being able to help the multifamily, each individual market, as well as on a kind of US data to kind of let people know what to expect or what we think might happen and how we might end up this year through this pandemic. So we see things actually going up. And so Marcia's going to share a slide and kind of show you a little bit about that before we get into kind of some of the fun stuff about Marcia and me, and maybe Melissa will share a little bit of her stuff too. So.
Yeah. Listen, as both of you were talking, I just, I've been in the business my entire life. I started when I was a teenager, leasing apartments, had no idea what I was doing and for how long I was going to be doing it. But I remember when getting leads was praying that someone would pick up the guide in the grocery store where you advertised that month. And they would come walk into your property or call you. And then to watch that evolve over the last 20, plus years into the internet listing service. And then now, PPC campaigns and all of the targeting and all of the email blasts and the very specific things that CoStar has clearly been able to just get the lion's share of the lead generating business under their umbrella. It makes it really helpful for those of us who, we don't want to keep the same ad in a magazine on the grocery store for a month at a time. We want to be able to change and have live feeds of availability and all of the things. And so it's really exciting. I can't imagine what you've seen firsthand as the just
Oh, listen,
evolved.
Marcia and I can tell you, we even a Finder. So this has been 10 years ago. We were looking at grocery store distribution and all those things and putting dots on maps to get the publication finished and sent in to actually be put in print. And so it feels like a lifetime, but it really wasn't that long ago that things just changed on a dime. And depending on what market you were in, that was still a very viable option for people. And so it really happened very quickly
Right.
on markets. And we are just fortunate that CoStar saw value in what we did, saw value in the people, and through this year has just believed in us as people, made sure that we were, staying home and being healthy, and we haven't lost a person to the
Right.
COVID as far as staffing and laying people off and all those things. And we've just been so fortunate to have a leader that has really taken care of us. And but yeah, the industry is ever changing, and you have to
Yes.
those people that can just change right with it. So
That's right. Well, I'd love to invite you, Marcia, to share the screen and share a little bit about what you have by way of trends.
Sure. I'm sharing it. Will you confirm you
Yep.
can see it?
We
Hi.
can see it.
Yep.
You can. So, and thank you, Jill. She's so right. The industry has come a long, long ways. I'll call it, innovation. And we just have trended with times. Whatever consumers have demanded as an industry, we've tried to keep up with, whether it's digital, virtual. And the good old days of the publications, they're, for the most part, gone by the wayside, but we're still really, if you boil it down, we're just delivering content and in a methodology or whatever works for consumers. So this year we wanted to have a little bit of fun because it has been such a crazy year. So we said, let's just get ready for the hottest winter ever.
Yeah.
And how do we make this the hottest winter ever? And one of the things we touched on was that we're going to come up with a new word called cybernating. Since we're all digital, we're all virtual, we are cybernating this year. Consumers are cybernating, and just have a little bit of fun. This slide just simply shows a couple of things that I thought might interest the group and let people see what's going on. And even though COVID has happened and we're in the midst of some different times, we'll say, leads have continued to grow and traffic's continued to grow. So we are actually 42% ahead of leads year over year in Q4 or in Q3, and in Q4 it's 45% up. So you can see this trend where our industry, and I love our business because we're tenacious, we make sure things keep rolling, and that consumers continue to choose an apartment to be their home and where they live. So innovations, I think Jill mentioned, and she's so right. We try to find ways that make it easier for a consumer to actually get on our site and garner the information that's important to them. Do they want a washer dryer? Is it more important for them to have a workout gym on site, or what do they really need? And one of the interesting facts that I wanted to share today, because it's the hottest winter ever, is actually we did a survey and we found out that 42% of renters had delayed their move from the spring and summer to the fall and winter. And typically this time, dips down, and people said, we're going to wait and see what happens. But now that, they're kind of tuned into what's happening with COVID, there's a vaccine on the roll and there's medicine to take, the leasing activity should pick back up, and people have decided they are in fact going to go ahead and make their move. So with leads up and traffic up, we hope you garner some of that for your property, and we work really hard to make sure it is there. The only other one fact I'll share, that we also did kind of a research study with a third-party company and said, hey, we want to know if somebody is on apartments.com and they go to a property's individual website, you know, what is that factor? How can we figure this out? So we put what's called a pixel on the back of some properties websites, as well as on their web brochure or their content on apartments.com. And nearly 50% of people that get to your property's website have been on apartments.com to get information first, which I think is a really cool process, in fact, to share, because you want them on your property's website. And I'll just attest, my niece was moving from South Bend, Indiana to Phoenix, Arizona. And in fact, that's exactly the process that her and her husband went through. And I was like, hey, I'm in the business. Let me help you out. But they just went to apartments.com, picked the 3 or 4 that they wanted in the area by his job. And then they went to the properties websites to get even more information about it. So it's just a good fun fact for us to share and let you know about today, because your properties websites have everything about what you're doing out there. And the fact that we can help some of that traffic get to your community's website is just something that we're really focused on.
Right. Well, it's very obvious when you Google an apartment name or a particular market, apartments.com always comes up in the top responses. And so I think that statistic makes a lot of sense and certainly follows what I've seen anecdotally. I think something too that's really interesting, and we've been talking a lot about this in our industry at the operations level, is how relevant the data is and how just undeniably useful it is for us to have the metrics to measure versus just, you know, even if it's tracked in our software, a lot of times over the last, 2 decades, we're relying on information that is just your word. How did you hear about us? Oh, okay, we're going to enter that in and then we're going to track that information. Now to be able to have, the pixel, I am not technology inclined on any level, but to know that kind of movement online, I've learned about heat maps and like how, click-through rates and all of those things, like having that actual data to evaluate and then use to make decisions on where you're spending your advertising money is just so helpful to our owners. And it's been another piece of the interesting evolution of how, we operate in this business. So I appreciate you sharing that, Marcia. Very interesting.
Oh, you bet. My pleasure.
Well, is there anything else about CoStar in general that you would like to share with our audience before we dive into a little bit more of a one-on-one question with you and Jill?
One more thing, and that is this guy that's over here beside me. This is my friend, Brad Bellflower, also known as Jeff Goldblum. And what I'll share is, because everybody asks, what has really made a big difference? And I have to say, the amount of marketing that we have done as a company to kind of raise up our industry, to give us credibility and recognizability, and the fact that it's okay, it's kind of fun to live in an apartment. A lot of people do it by choice. It's a great place to do it. And I think having a spokesperson for several years has really helped our industry. I wasn't sure at first, right? You're thinking, well, I don't know, having a movie star, but he's adopted our industry. He loves the apartment industry. He says it all the time. Oh, these apartment people are so cool. He's zany and quacky and fun and well-known and really a cool guy. And I just share that because I know people have asked, how did you think about getting Jeff Goldblum? And it was really in the very beginning, we thought if we really want to become, a very complete and a good, credible website for consumers to use, we got to get somebody that they're going to listen to or trust. And he, in fact, fell in love with the apartment industry and decided was just really going to do it for a year, and has now gone 5 years into making sure our industry is out there and talked about and well known. As a matter of fact, what was it, a month or so ago, the Saturday Night Live group picked up something on apartments.com with Jeff Goldblum, and we didn't even know about it. We were like, oh my gosh. But because he's out there on these commercials all the time and live streaming, and we put him on.
Y'all had a Super Bowl commercial. I was like,
yes,
made it in this industry. There's a Super Bowl commercial.
I know it. So cool. But
it's funny because the very first, we were talking about the NAA event before our interview went live. And I was saying one of my favorite things as a client of apartments.com, or I'm sorry, of CoStar, is that at the NAA conference, there is always a concert that is just insanely fabulous. It's very intimate, but it's these very, big name celebrity musicians. So the very first time I went to NAA was in Vegas, and it was like, I think One Republic and the Gin Blossoms and it was at the Mandalay and the Beach Club.
Oh yeah.
Like,
That was fun.
like standing in the water watching this concert, and I was like, is this real life? And then Jeff Goldblum comes out on stage, and I think he had really just been like kind of launched as the spokesperson, and he talks to everyone, and I was like, this is crazy. And then year after year, to see some of the concerts, Jill, you and I, our favorite that we shared was the Zach Brown concert in Atlanta, which was incredible. And Marcia, you reminded me of, what was your favorite one?
Well, I had a couple. I did love Zach Brown, I have to say, but Keith Urban was phenomenal, and really Kelly Clarkson, because she's country, and I loved how real she was. And on the stage, she would just, what can I do to make these people happy? And everybody was, wow, wild and crazy. So no, thank you for mentioning
was on
that.
Petco Field. Like, you're standing on Petco Field watching Kelly Clarkson and Brett Young sing, like you could touch them. That's how close they were. It was crazy. And then we talked about Keith Urban in Denver, came into the audience, gave a woman, one of your clients, the guitar that he had played. Like, it was crazy.
So sentimental and emotional. I'm getting goosebumps remembering the moment of watching him give that to the girl. And it ended up, she was really going through a tough time, and it made her whole week or year. She was like, this is just what I needed. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. And then you all give away these like cars and cash and like crazy things at the NAA conference. So all I know is that y'all support our association. We are forever grateful for that. You certainly support and help drive our business and our success in the field. And thank you for that. And then thanks for entertaining us the way that you do, Mr. Goldblum, and all the fun things at the conferences I've been to so far. I bet your internal employee conferences are something else.
A lot of fun.
They're fun.
You have to sign a non-disclosure. Don't ask, don't tell what goes on at the internal.
That actual, the year Zach Brown was in, we had him in at NAA in Atlanta. He actually came to our sales conference. They brought him to our sales conference. He did a private for just the like 600 or 700 of us. I should have
grabbed, I have my little name tag with the ticket for his hanging in my other room. I should bring that into my office, actually. I think I have maybe the Denver one. I was like, oh, I wish I'd had all of these like compiled. But yeah, y'all are fabulous and such great partners. And I really appreciate you taking time this morning to share all of the great reasons why CoStar is such a good partner for us in this industry. But I'm ready to shift gears to get to know you two a little bit more. And I'd love to, we're going to start with Marcia and go to Jill with just a few questions. We've pared it down a little bit since we wanted to talk so much about CoStar this morning. But I'd love for each of you to share, having the 2+ decades of experience have in your industry and in the apartment industry, share a memorable story that comes to mind when you're walking down memory lane.
Oh, goodness. Well, I have a lot, right? Somebody asked me yesterday, how long have you been going to the National Apartment Association conferences? And it's been many years, back in the 80s, but so many good conferences that have shared knowledge and information from, well, like a Jeff Goldblum or somebody, where people have come in and shared with us their expertise. But I have to say, having been such a contributor, not only to apartments.com, Apartment Finder, Place I Work, but to the betterment of our industry overall. I've been passionate about education and, the political action committees and things that it has taken to keep our industry healthy. I was one of the very first people to get the certified apartment supplier designation back in the day when we were like, well, should we be certified? Let's try it and see what happens. That was memorable. The other thing was just recently, 4 or 5 years ago, I got a phone call from a gentleman with Lincoln who was on the National Apartment Association Board of Directors. He said, well, Marcia Bollinger, we want to put you into the Lifetime Achievement Hall of Fame for NAA. I mean,
Wow.
you have given so much for so many years and you've lived for this industry. And my mom had just passed away. So I kind of fell to my knees in this airport and I was crying because it was
Aw.
so monumental and emotional. And I was so proud. And, you know, the people are coming up, you know, I'm in an airport back when we could fly.
Right.
But it was really cool. And then I remember the day that I got up at an NAA event and they let me speak for 4 or 5 minutes about what has mattered in this industry and what has made a difference. And one of the things I shared was about teaming, that we all have teams of some sort, either our on-site teams or our, you know, apartments.com teams, or our family is a team. Everybody's a team. And one of the things I addressed there, and it kind of rings true for me during this year of COVID, is that if you believe in yourself and you believe in those around you, whatever your team is, you can do things far beyond what you thought you might be able to do. And that's because teams support each other. We're all in this together. We have to make it through. And it's one of those memorable times that I always just bring that thought to the forefront and say, you know, I'm a part of a different team with my family, with my working friends, with people like you, MJ. I mean, it's been so cool to get to know different people out there and consider us, you know, we're people of an industry that house 35% of Americans, and we stick to the fight, you know, we do what's needed. So that's kind of a couple of my memorable events. Of course, every time we get together and have a little fun along the way, I remember
Yes.
that because it's good wine, right?
Right. Well, I love that. Thank you. And congratulations on being inducted into the Lifetime Achievement Hall of Fame for the NAA. That's incredible. And, you know, you have to love this business because as much fun as we have and, you know, as interesting as it is, it's excruciatingly hard work most days.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's emotional and painful and difficult and challenging. And the weight is heavy when you're dealing not only with people's homes and their lives, it's the single most intimate experience I think you could have with a customer living with someone, right? So that's,
Yes.
it's just this unique thing. But then also the weight of our, you know, responsibility to manage multi-millions of dollars of investment for, you know, our owners. It's a great responsibility. And with that comes a great amount of work and challenges. So because of all of those things, when you get, you know, the taste of this industry, I don't know of many people who have left and, you know, found themselves to be happy and fulfilled once you're in this business and you can get a taste of all of those kinds of things, Marcia. It's in your blood, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, Jill, why don't you share a memorable story from your storied career?
Geez, one story, hard to
I know,
think.
right?
I feel like I have the stories from when I was on site because that's where I started.
Yeah.
And then we have the stories of times with our friends that we work with. And so I, like many others, even on the vendor side, I feel like started on site. And we all have those stories where we could and say we should write a book about
Right.
the living through of all the crazy things that happen on site, from you know, all the episodes with residents and things that craziness happens, floods and fires and just general nonsense and craziness, to things that happens with, you know, with team members and all of that drama. I've been through all of that. And now, of course, sometimes we are therapists for those folks on site, I feel like, but it's always fun because we get to live those stories somewhat with those folks. We don't have to deal with them now. So that's kind of nice. So I have tons of those memories, and a lot of my really great memories are when I travel to different markets with
Right.
my team members and ride with them and stay with them, and spend some time with them and hear all their stories about, and bond with them over their families, have dinners with them and make memories with them. And then, of course, the trips to NAA. And we have so many of those of Atlanta, boxes and boxes of donuts and things from all of our, we had all those different rooms of food. And, I remember just taking boxes of donuts and trying to carry them back to the hotel and dropping donuts everywhere and just like crazy, ridiculous things. Marcia and I have tons of stories of, meeting in Memphis together with, some of our team members back in the fine days and having wonderful dinners and just sharing plenty of time together. And, we just have, we meet some of our closest friends in this business, I think. When you say family, it is truly a family and it gets in your blood. I started in college leasing. My mom is in the industry. She manages a property. Marcia knows my mom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she manages a property and had me come fill in. When I was in college, I was a history major. So clearly I'm not using any of that. And, was going to
Except maybe learning lessons not to repeat them. That's historical.
Yeah, a historical fact.
Right.
But yeah, so never left, just, got into my blood and, didn't leave. And so it truly does. It makes you, you fall in love with the business. And so, still making memories for sure.
I love that. That is great. And Jill, I wanted to tell you earlier, that is among the most beautiful pictures, your backdrop that I've ever seen. So I love that. I've not seen that picture before. It's beautiful.
Yeah, CoStar did a really cool thing for the apartments.com business. We have a background for all of our cities, kind of major cities, and then they put in apartments.com logos
really?
On Zoom. Yeah, I think
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
What town do you live in, may I ask?
Oh, so I live in Kentucky in Lexington.
Oh, in Lexington. Okay, got it.
Yeah, but that is Cincinnati's skyline.
Yes, it definitely, the Queen City Tower, of course.
Yeah.
That's nice. And they've even our Sky Wheel, which I saw for the first time in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's a recent picture because that's only been there for a year or so, but
yeah, I would guess I don't know if they grabbed that or our photographer did it. I don't know.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a great picture.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask each of you also to share some just professional advice that you've learned along the way that you would love to impart to the next generation of industry professionals.
Oh, I love that question. Well, I've got a couple of sayings that I live by. Jill's heard these through the years, but one of the things, and it's so perfect and apropos for 2020, but it's not always just how you do when the sun shines, it's how you weather a storm. And, the success or the silver lining of COVID has been that we've all learned digital and virtual assets amongst ourselves, how to work better and more efficient. And we have weathered the storm because we're all here. It's December, merry and holly and, the beauty of the holiday season. And we've survived the toughest year, for sure, the toughest year in our industry, and kept people safe. And then we've thrived in it. We've learned things and added them on. I always say, sometimes you grow vertically, sometimes you grow horizontally, bolting on knowledge and information into your skill set. And I think this year has been one of those years that it doesn't matter who you are, what business you're in. If you have kids, don't have kids, pets, you have learned something new this year about yourself, about your internal self. And I think that that was weathering the storm very well. And, we took the high road on it. We tried to take the high road and figure out what do we need to do as an industry to work more virtual and digital. And I'm proud of our industry. It means a lot that everybody kind of, threw down and did what we have to do to get it done. And, you know, the bonus on the top was that, you know, we had an apartment teams day for our industry. We got recognized nationally across the United States of America that we're essential and we matter. And it feels really good to be on that big global metro, multifamily, every area of the United States team. We're on that team, and you know, we're climbing to new heights every single day. But those are just a couple of things that I kind of share about teaming and sticking to the fight when you're hardest hit, because it's when the things seem worse that you must not quit. You have to keep going. So thank you
really great
for
advice.
asking that.
And
yeah.
Listen, one of the things I struggle with so much during these interviews is like, I get so excited. I don't want to ever interrupt. I'm so glad you brought up the apartment teams thing again, because I was thinking as you talked about it, how very grateful I am. If that was your idea and y'all took that spark and made it the wildfire that it was, thank you so much. You know, our teams being the front line, it's truly indescribable what they did every single day. And that was the single best thing, I agree with you, out of this pandemic, is that we all realized, and our industry is one thing, it's certainly our industry, our people who are on the front line, making sure your home is well taken care of and that your community is clean, and people showed up every single day. We didn't have to close the door of an office other than to clean spaces for any reason, thank goodness. But also just in the world, the people appreciated for the things that they do every single day that none of us ever took the time to stop to think about how important it was to be able to go to the grocery store and to be able to take your trash out to the curb and it be picked up every single day. And some of those things that we've been like conditioned to expect versus appreciate. I loved our just initiative of making sure that our people on site were appreciated for the hard work and the sacrifice that they make every day. Jill, I started on site too, just like you. And I love when I am able to interact with people who are, you know, miles into their journey that started on site, so that they just have some, you know, real understanding and appreciation for how hard it is to be the front line. I don't even remember how hard it is. It's been so long, but I can certainly appreciate, and during this pandemic, more than ever. So thank you for making that idea a reality. And I hope that sticks forever. Have you registered that with the National Day?
Yes, it will be an annual event for the apartment associations across America. The National Apartment Association deemed the day. I don't know whether we'll just stick to the Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month, or if we're going to keep the same day and go to a Thursday. But no, I told him it has to be a forever thing, because, you know, there's cookie day and cupcake day and pudding day. Well, we're multifamily. We're essential. We're apartments teams day. We're keeping it. So we got it.
Well, I am so glad you brought it up again, because I was trying in my brain not to interrupt you earlier to say thank you, but I think that's incredible. Well, Jill, what about you? What kind of advice would you offer up to our next generation?
Yeah, so just to say, Marcia really did work really hard on that. She spearheaded that whole thing. So goes to her. She did a great job working really hard to get that done, to like working through what to name it. We had some naming cues at first.
Right.
Marcia was like, MF Day? No, doesn't work. Yeah.
That might not go over well on the internet, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we had some real, but she really did a great job working through that, and really worked hard on that. So thank you, Marcia. And we work so hard to remember how much our front line of the business does, going every day, opening those doors every day. And you know, when our teams, we make it a priority, you know, for our teams to see our customers and provide good customer service. We've really focused on that in the last few years, so that, you know, they're seeing those folks every quarter, making sure that they know and they acknowledge, hey, we appreciate you, you know, giving that appreciation for them, and sharing some value on those visits. So certainly appreciate everything that you guys do. from the maintenance guy to leasing reps, all the way up to owners. So we appreciate everything you guys do. But for advice, I think a lot of things that I have learned over the years have come from my mentors. Marcia's always full of great inspiration. She's like a walking inspirational quote. And so she's fantastic. I think things to me that are important is being a leader of others is don't ask them to do things I don't do or won't do. So I always try to make sure that that is part of my routine. I never ask someone to have a meeting, hold a meeting, things like that, and do things that I don't do or won't do with them or for them. And everyone in my vertical of structure does that. Brian is a great example of that. He's always willing to step in and do things and help out. I try to always just practically advice. I try to always clean my email box out at the end of the day. I think that's a good habit to get into. And, you know, always, you know, it sounds a little cheesy, but be a trusted advisor. You know, keep your integrity. Sometimes it's not easy to tell people something they don't necessarily want to hear. But if it will keep your trust and relationships with your customers and your teammates. So I think things like that are important as you go through this career path and stay in this industry. And I think at the end of the day, you can learn from anyone. Anyone can help you. You might think it's not important to listen to the maintenance guy on site, but you don't know how to do his job, so you probably ought to listen to him. It's one of the first things I learned, and one of the things I keep most dear to me to this day when I'm on site is, you know, if I go on site to see someone, that's the first person I talk to. If I see them, I'm stop talking to them. So I think that's always something. Make sure you never forget. So
I agree. I love that. Thank you. Well, both of you, great advice. So listen, again, I want to be very respectful of your time. And I do want to get to know you both just a little bit, but we've spent our most of our time together talking so far, and I love that. But I would ask if we could just maybe round this out and each of you take a minute or two and just tell us a little bit about yourself personally. If you want to talk about your family or pets or hobbies or anything like that, a random fun fact, just maybe take a minute each and just share with us who you are outside of this industry, if there's anything you'd be so inclined to share. I love getting to know people on a human level. I think that's one of the things that make our business really interesting. And even though this interview has been fabulous and I've loved every second of learning about the CoStar, you know, just greatness and about you as leaders, let's just hear just a minute or so about you on a personal level, and no time limit, of course. This is, you know, this can go forever, but I want to be respectful of your time.
Oh, you're just amazing. I love your energy and spirit. Well, on my personal side, I'll just share that I am Aunt Marcia B. I have 23 nieces and nephews and 13 great nieces and nephews. So I'm all about being the aunt that spoils or helps the kids or buys them whatever they want. The jeans their mom won't buy, or, hey, I love the Grinch. Will you get me a Grinch? Hey, would you help me fill up my tank of gas? Or, you know, buy me a steak dinner or whatever. Right. I love being an aunt and taking care of kids. Their parents have to raise them, right? Well, when you're an aunt, you get to spoil them a little bit and have some fun. And that has been my absolute pleasure and focus in life of what brings me joy. MJ, I love that. And the other thing, I've got so many great friends in this industry. Jill's right. You get so many friends in the business and outside the business as well, of course. But for the most part, we build these relationships and friendships that matter and that last a lifetime. And having many friends that know a lot of different things about our industry, it's always fun. And just recently, and I say recently, it's probably been 10 years by now, but I developed a little bit of a passion to enjoy really good red wine. So if it's a really good Cabernet, I want to try it. But that's
I have a recommendation for you. I just found one and I'm like, not good. You might have already known this, but it's called Unshackled.
Ooh, I gotta write it down, girl.
It's a Prisoner like brand. It's Marcia.
Okay.
It's so good. And it's like mid-range price wise. So it's something you could enjoy somewhat regularly. And I also wanted to ask, where do you live? Where are you from?
Well, I have two places really. I used to live on the road, or I'd say on a Delta airplane, because I traveled every week. But with COVID, we've kind of slowed down and had no travel. So I'm actually in Dallas right now, share a home with my brother and his wife. And it's been great because I actually have food here. There's food and there's Christmas decorations. It's fabulous. And I also have an apartment in Atlanta. Our corporate office for apartments.com is in Atlanta, and I have a place there. I just haven't been there recently because, I've been here. But yeah, both of those two are kind of where I rest at night or try to get a good night's sleep, depending on what year it is. Like this year, I've been in Texas. I was here early spring for a conference, and we put the whole shelter in place. All of COVID just hit us all like really fast. Remember how fast it just came up, and everybody's like, oh, we have this thing called a global pandemic and there's no fly and shelter in place. And just hunkered down and stayed here. But yeah, I love both cities. They're both vibrant and fun.
When the world is like, somewhat normal again, we just have to connect. I feel like I could talk to you for days and days and days. And I don't have nearly as many nieces and nephews, but I was the aunt for sure. I had my son later in life. My sister had her children very early, and I proudly wore the crown of best aunt. And so like that and your love of wine and your love of this industry, I'm like, we have to connect at some point in time because we could certainly share some wine and talk for days.
Let's do it. And Jill, come with us. Well, where do you live? What city are you in? Are you in
I'll
Cincy?
pick you up on the way.
Okay.
I'm in Cincy. I'm north of the city, but yes, I'm in Cincy. My office is here. I do travel a lot though for Village Green. So, well, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself personally. Jill, can I ask you to do the same?
Sure. So I'm married to my wonderful husband, Scott. We've been married for like 17 years. Like I had to do the math in my head.
That's incredible.
And we have a son who's 15. His name is Brooks, and he's the coolest kid ever. I'm sure Marcia at 15, he's up 15 already. So he's awesome. He's plays sports. He's on, football, baseball is his love. So I'm on the baseball field a lot. That's kind of hobbies because, I'm always following him around, I feel like. But
what position does he play?
First base.
First base, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so when I have time, I like to read. I like to I travel quite a bit too. My territory is Kentucky, Ohio up through Columbus. So I usually just everywhere unless, we're going to Atlanta or somewhere else for CoStar. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks or podcasts or whatever. Yeah. So I do that as well. But I'm kind of boring.
We're going to have to share some titles offline. I saw that you're an avid reader and podcasts, and I am too. And that's been a thing about the quarantine as well, as I have got through some books that I've been wanting to get through, and I've gotten into some podcasts, and it has been like one of the most beautiful things about the pandemic for me. And so that's a really one of my favorite questions for the survey too, is
Mhm.
know like what everyone else is reading and listening to. So I'm going to email you offline a few that have been life-changing and incredible. So
Yeah, for sure. Do that. I'll send you some too. I just finished Green,
yes.
Matthew McConaughey's book. It was really good.
What was, oh, funny you should say that.
Greenland.
I'm listening right now to the John Grisham book called A Time for Mercy, which is like a follow-up to A Time to Kill, which
Time
was
to Kill. He was in.
and this
Mhm.
man who's reading the audiobook, you couldn't convince me it's not Matthew McConaughey. Like he does
Sounds like him.
characters. It's crazy. He sounds just like him. I'm loving it. It's a fabulous book too. So I'll have to
Yeah.
recommend that one.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'll send you some too. Yeah. We'll share.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
ladies,
been, there have been good things through the pandemic. We can find bright spots like that. So,
you know what? I think you're absolutely right. And if you just take a minute to focus on those instead of, the fires, the proverbial fires that we have to put out in real life, I think there have been some very beautiful, bright spots about what's gone on this year. And so it's ebbed and flowed, of course. Early on, Marcia, when that Zoom Women of the Industry thing started with our friend Hannah, it didn't feel very light at that time. It actually felt dark and scary and heavy. And that group was a really good source of inspiration to have something to look forward to and people to talk to, human connection. So that's incredible. And the other thing, we've been doing the spotlight at our association for 2.5 years or so now, but it was all in person. So it was all very local people. This has afforded us the opportunity to talk to you in Dallas and, Jill in Lexington and people that have been at the national level in Washington, D.C. For the NAA. And it's made the world a smaller place, which I think is a beautiful thing because I've relished being able to connect with people like you.
Yes. No, for sure it has. I've been coining this phrase, virtual equity. We're all learning digital and virtual equity. We're building that into our suite of skill sets. We all have virtual and digital equity now, virtual customer service or virtual resident retention, all these things that are in our virtual world. So yeah, and I'll share one book, Hope Rises by Dr. Randy Ross. He just wrote it for the year 2020 for COVID.
Really?
His wife is in our industry and he wrote this book and it's amazing about hope, having hope during the COVID crisis. So I'll put that one out there too for.
Hey, Marcia, for my money, hope is a close second to joy. So
yes.
Peace and story, those are my things. So ladies, this has been such a pleasure. I am so appreciative of each of you. And I would invite if either or both of you want to have the one-on-one where we talk to you about nothing except, the personal part of this, I welcome it. It would be so wonderful to get to know you a little more and we can air it, in 2021. So say the word, but thank you again. Thank you for all you do for our association. Thanks for inspiring me this morning. I feel incredibly, just filled with hope and inspiration to get back out there to the grind of this industry. And thanks for your partnership for our association as well.
Our absolute pleasure.
Well, enjoy your weekend and we'll connect soon. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Hottest winter ever.
Yes.
Bye-bye.